Hey guys, it's Tahira, and this is a spoiler-filled reading vlog for ONYX STORM by Rebecca Yarros. I'm actually technically starting this reading vlog like a little bit later because I'm actually already like 35% of the way through the book, but I feel like I have so many thoughts that I want to say, and I am including ONYX STORM in another reading vlog for where I'm reading like a couple other new releases, but I'm keeping that one spoiler free. And I wanted a place where I could just kind of dump my thoughts, like spoiler filled thoughts as I'm reading. And so I decided I would just do a separate vlog spoiler filled specifically for this book. So yeah, that is where we're at today. I am, as I said, 35% of the way through ONYX STORM. And just right off the bat, I had a lot of hesitations going into this book because I was in the camp of, I really loved Fourth Wing. Like, it was one of my favorite books of 2023, I believe, the year that I read it. Really enjoyed it. I think that it really brought back the magic of reading fantasy. It was so fun, and I just had such a good time reading that book. And then I hated Iron Flame, that it became literally one of my worst books of 2023. So very mixed reviews and feelings for those two books. I don't know, I feel like Iron Flame was just a lot slower. It felt like nothing happened. There was a lot of miscommunication going on, and usually miscommunication is not something that a lot of people like to read about, just because, like, come on, you can work this out. Like, you're supposedly adults, like, you can do this. But yeah, just not a lot happened in that book. And now that ONYX STORM has come out, I was a little hesitant because of those mixed reviews, and I just didn't know how I would like ONYX STORM, basically, based on like how I felt about the previous two books. But I also want to give the author sort of like the benefit of the doubt, because I did know that between Fourth Wing and Iron Flame there is a very, very small gap. They literally came out like within months of each other. I think Fourth Wing came out probably like April, and then Iron Flame came out later, that October or November, I want to say. So there was very quick turnaround time, and I feel that the publisher probably had a hand in that, especially after looking at the success of Fourth Wing. Because it was such a massive success, I'm sure the publisher wanted her to like speed things along for her second book. So since Rebecca Yarros had a little bit more time writing this book, I'm really hoping that it is going to show in ONYX STORM. So yeah, as I said, 35% of the way through almost. The reason I'm okay with kind of starting this vlog at 35% is because I know, especially with fantasy books, a lot of the time, like, it doesn't ramp up truly until like the latter half of the book, where that's where all like the major reveals or just twists happen or unexpected things. So that's why I was okay with starting this. But so far I was actually a little bit surprised that not much has actually been happening. We left off Iron Flame with a pretty big cliffhanger. Like, come on, Xaden is Venin. Like, that was unexpected. It was something that we knew would be like have like really big ramifications for what came later on in the story. But I'm so disappointed because nothing is happening with that in this book so far. Like, basically in Iron Flame we're told that Xaden is Venin, and then in ONYX STORM he is Venin, but it's not even playing like a big part of the story at all. Like, I thought the way that this would go is that basically you find out that Xaden is Venin, and it's sort of like an all or nothing switch where he immediately turns into like the kind of Venin that we know from the previous books. And I thought it would be like an instant change, but that is like not at all like how it is. It's much more of a gradual process of change where he's like slowly kind of sinking into Venin tendencies, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what to call it, but basically it's just a very slow process. And that's causing that aspect to be kind of boring and slow. Like, I thought we would be dealing with the consequences of Xaden becoming Venin like immediately in this book, but so far it's just pretty normal. Violet and Xaden are interacting pretty normally. Like, there's nothing really that has changed in their relationship dynamic. They're still together, they're still having sex with each other, they're still like talking to each other. There's nothing really that's different. And I know that I have a feeling that's gonna definitely ramp up later on, and I feel like something's gonna happen where like obviously their relationship is gonna change. But I don't know, I was just expecting that to have happened already, and I feel like it would have introduced a lot more of a tension between the characters and a lot more higher stakes than what we're getting right now. So yeah, another thing is like this book is there's like so much planning and scheming and sort of plotting going on rather than actually carrying out the plans. Like, we're slowly starting to get into that a little bit, but just so far it kind of seems that it's following a lot of Iron Flame structure, where there was a lot of like talking and figuring things out rather than actual like things that are moving the plot forward. I don't know, I just feel like this book could have been cut down a lot, because just nothing has really, I feel like nothing has happened. Like, there have been scenes that have been happening, but it's just like pretty slow. And I know the Kindle book is pretty big, like I think it's almost 800 pages. I don't know about the physical copy because I don't have the physical copy myself. I decided to read it on Kindle because I don't own any of the books, which I don't know if I will, because I was telling myself I would buy the physical books if I really enjoyed this one, because of how much I had such a mixed reaction with the other one. But I don't know, we'll see after this one. But yeah, at least the Kindle copy also doesn't have pages, so I don't really know what page I'm on or how many there are. So we'll have to see. But I feel like already that this book could have been cut down a little bit, just to kind of pick up the plotting and the pacing a little. Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but that is how I feel right now. I will also for sure record my reaction to the ending, because I've heard it's like really unexpected, and a lot of people are like confused because it ends in a way where you think it's gonna keep going, but I guess it doesn't. At least that's what I've seen based on like people's reactions. So I am interested to see what goes on. But yeah, I don't know, just the whole Venom thing, like I think Rebecca needed to have that sort of the changes either come faster than what they are right now, or just sped up the whole timeline of him turning into more Venom, like I guess, like earlier into the book, to add some tension and some stakes for that relationship, because it's sort of just following the same dynamic that they had before they found out that information, other than the fact that Violet is trying to find a cure for him being Venom. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I think that things will start picking up hopefully after the 50% mark. Usually the second half of books are like this are like way faster and have more things going on, but we'll see. Hey, so I don't even know when I last did this, but I am now 56% of the way through ONYX Storm, so almost to the 60% mark. Definitely more than halfway through the book, and still like nothing is really happening. Maybe it's just me and I'm feeling like I'm expecting a little bit more than what is happening. Like there's some stuff happening, but I feel like the story structure so far is so repetitive, because we have basically Violet like going to different places because she's trying to find the 7th dragon breed that has basically never been seen. And we know Andarna is like part of the 7th dragon breed. She's like super rare, and they're trying to kind of find more of her kind. So the story is basically them like traveling to different places to try to talk to people to see if like they know anything about the 7th dragon breed, is to try to find more information about that. But the reason it's so repetitive is because that's kind of what's just happening. Like they're going to somewhere, they go there, they don't find what they're looking for, they come back to Besgaya, they're there for like some class, they're practicing learning their signets, and then they go for another trip to somewhere else, they figure out that nothing is there that they need, they come back, and then they go again. So it's like kind of just going and coming back from Besgaya through these different places like over and over and over again. And usually like when they go to some place, they usually like something happens there, and then they come back, go again, something happens, maybe a fight, maybe some conversation, and then they come back. So it's just a lot of the same kind of structure and stuff happening over and over and over again, and it's just causing me to be a little bit bored. Like I feel like this book could be cut down a little bit with the amount of like this kind of the same structure that we're doing. I feel like if we had cut it down a little bit, we would have kind of gotten the gist of what we're trying to do, but like a little bit in less of a time period. And I do understand like why they're doing it repeatedly, because I feel like it's to show that this dragon breed is like so rare, no one knows about it, and they're I think it's to show like constantly that it's not going to be easy to find this 7th dragon breed. But I think as for like from the reader's perspective, it just gets a little bit boring when time after time we're kind of just doing the same thing. So yeah, other than that, nothing's really happened. I mean, Xaden has found his mother again, because we know that his mother abandoned him like at a very young age, and she comes up as a character again in one of the places that they go to. Herodis, I want to say, is the name of the place. But yeah, we're kind of seeing those dynamics with Xaden seeing his mom after many years. Another thing that I'm not liking about this book is that Andarna basically is serving no purpose as of to this point. Like, we have Tern, and basically I feel like we don't really see any of the other dragons that much. I like, obviously I know this is all in like Violet's point of view, so obviously we're gonna see her dragon the most, but even like seeing the dynamics between Tern and Sagail, who is his mate, who's the other dragon, like we're not really seeing that much either. Like, I feel like all that was so prevalent in the first couple books because they're like these fated mates that have to be close together all the time, and they are close together all the time in this book, but I just want to see like more of their dynamic too, because I feel like they're a like pretty like significant characters, I guess, in the book. Which I love about this book, like this series, so much, is that the dragons are characters in the book. Like, they have their own thoughts and personalities and their own society, and I feel like they're a very significant part of the story. But obviously Andarna is young. We know like she can't really contribute actually as much as she wants to. We see that, and we see her frustration about that because she knows that she's young, but she still wants to like contribute to what they're doing. I don't know, I just don't know how they would bring in Adarna if she's that young, but I just wish she had more of a bigger part of the story, because right now she's kind of there more for almost not comic relief, but like just throwing in little quips here and there to bring a sort of humor to her conversations with her dragons, and that's kind of all she's there for. And I feel like it's gonna kind of go through again like the last books, where she's kind of not doing anything for most of the story, and then towards the end she like does something super cool and magical that no other dragon can do, because she's like super, like her breed is super rare. So I feel like that structure is gonna happen again with this book, which I'm so like, I don't know if I want that, because we already kind of saw that in Iron Flame. I think she was like sleeping for most of it, because that's a very important part, I guess, because she has to like grow and basically make sure that she's maturing properly, and we already kind of went through that in Iron Flame, and I feel like we're almost going through that again, where she's still like a character. Like, she's not asleep, like she's there, but that's it, she's just kind of there, she's not really doing anything. And I wish we see a little bit more of her like actually partaking in their activities from here on out, which I'm sure she's gonna come in and do something super badass like towards the end. But I don't know, I just don't want to keep seeing this where like majority of the book she's just kind of there, and then she kind of just comes in and saves the day in the end. Also, like, she's trying to find a cure for Xaden, but we're not really seeing any active steps towards that. She keeps talking about how she wants to find a cure and is gonna find a cure, but it's just not happening. And it just feels like this book is sort of a setup almost for like I know there's still 2 books left in the series, so I feel like this is almost like a really big setup book for what's gonna happen in those 2 books, because I feel like there's just a lot of like talking about things and not actually doing them, if that makes sense, other than trying to find the dragon breed, but that's just still like, it's not really leading anything. And I don't know, it feels weird to have a whole like 500, 600, 700 page book dedicated to just that. So I don't know, but yeah, that's how I'm feeling right now. So definitely not a 5-star, definitely not a 4-star either. I'm feeling kind of a 3 right now, because I am enjoying what I'm reading, and it's super fast to read. Like, I'm really getting into it, and when I like start reading it, I'm really in the zone, and I just want to keep reading. And yes, but a 3-star because I don't know, I have mixed feelings about it too, but I just need something like major to happen soon. I hope that since now that we're in the 40% away from the end mark, like something start happening, we start getting reveals for things, because I desperately need something to happen at this point, and if it doesn't, then that's gonna be disappointing. Okay, so I am 84% of the way through the books. I have just about like 10 to 15% left. So 10 to 15% left. We're truly in the home stretch for this book, and things are happening. Of course, things are ramping up, but one thing I was not expecting at all was Andarna leaving Violet and Tern and going with the Irids back. Basically, they finally meet the Irids on this random isle, and they find out that the Irids left Andarna as a sort of test, because Irids are all about peace. They're kind of like Quakers, where they're like all about peace. They don't want war. They don't want to use magic. They think it's a weapon, and they don't want anything to do with that kind of stuff. And they kind of left Andarna to see like how the world, I guess, is kind of doing, and hoping that there will be a point where magic won't be used as a weapon and that there will be peace. Obviously, when they come there, there's not peace, and they want their help to kind of win the war and push back the Venin like they did like hundreds of years ago. Obviously, the Irids don't want to help because they're like, we don't want to be a part of all this violence and everything. So they kind of ditch Andarna too. But then they randomly come back and they decide to help, and then one of them comes up to Andarna and he's like, you have to leave. You can come with us and we'll tell you everything, basically. But you have to break your bond with Violet and Taryn, I guess, too. And it actually happens. And I was not expecting this as a potential arc for Andarna. I thought it would kind of be like Iron Flame, where she kind of does nothing for most of it, and then in the end she kind of does this like heroic thing. Granted, there still is like some pages left in the book, so we still have time for her to come back maybe in some aspect, but I was just not expecting it. And I know I was saying that Andarna doesn't do anything, but I really like, I'm gonna miss her presence, because like her personality is just so adorable, and I feel like it really embodies like an angsty teenager who like isn't old enough to do stuff but like wants to do stuff, and I feel like it captures that aspect so well. So yeah, I'm just hoping that Andarna can come back soon. Another thing is that we find out about Violet's second signet. She is apparently a dream walker, so she can go to other people's dreams and potentially even like involve herself in them and manipulate them. So definitely something that kind of was brought up very quickly and then was brushed over because there was an attack later on that they had to deal with. She can dreamwalk, and I can see all the potential ramifications of this. I'm sure like in the later books, maybe in this book, but even in the next two books, she's going to use that to her advantage and I guess get into the enemy's heads somehow. I'm not sure exactly where this dream walking ability is gonna go, but it's really, really dangerous because when people are sleeping, they don't have any guards up and they can't protect themselves, which is like the perfect chance for her to go in and look at their dreams. The last 10%-ish also means that there's gonna be some reveals coming in, hopefully. Another scene I really, really loved is when Sawyer was working with his dragon to basically create accommodations for him to figure out how to ride again. He has lost a leg since Iron Flame because of what happened in there, and because of that he's been recovering and he's been learning how to use his like prosthetic leg, and he's slowly trying to get back into potentially riding again because obviously he's a rider. This is like a really big part of his life and he just doesn't want to leave it. So I really, really love that scene of him working with his dragon. Violet was there, Taryn was there, and they were all kind of working to figure out a way that would be best for him to be able to ride his dragon but still like accommodating for his injuries, which I thought was fantastic because I feel like we usually never see disability like representation in any book, not even like contemporary, let alone fantasy. And I feel like in fantasy you're always doing these really cool stunts and things that are really hard on your body, especially in this because they're doing dragon riding and all of that like requires a lot of strain on your body. And I just really like, even with Violet, we know she has a chronic illness, and even just highlighting how she needs to slightly change things in order to make it work for her and how that's perfectly okay, and sort of talking about that with Sawyer as well. I thought that those were just really well done, because just because you're doing something differently in a way that works for you, it doesn't mean that it's wrong. So yeah, that was fantastic, but I'm hoping that we can get to some reveals happening quickly. And the final battle kind of is going on because the Venom kind of came for like a massive attack on them, and that's what we're in the middle of right now. And I will definitely keep you updated and definitely record my reaction to like probably the last like chapter or two of the book, because I know the ending is really crazy for this book. Okay, I had a feeling that Andarna would come back, and she does. So they're gonna be reunited. But I'm 98% of the way through, and I only have 15 minutes left of the book. So I'm just so anxious to see like what else is gonna happen, and like what crazy like reveal or twist she's gonna bring up. I'm so confused. This totally did not end in the way that I thought it was gonna end, and I have no idea what's going on. Okay, so Violet is like married, I guess, to Xaden now, but like she's woken up and she doesn't know what's going on, and she knows this basically just by the ring on her finger. And I'm just so confused because something happened where she was married to Xaden, and I don't think we saw it, but like I'm just so confused about like what happened. I think she's confused, we're confused, but it's really not as shocking of an ending as people were saying. I don't know, people were making it seem like it was crazy and so unexpected and everything. I guess it's more of like it's a little bit unfinished, and it definitely leaves room for like things to progress in the next book. I guess people were thinking there would be more of a wrapped up ending, and there really wasn't. It was really left in the middle of a scene where we're confused, she's confused. So I guess that's where sort of the ending hype comes from. But like other than that, for me, like I don't know, it wasn't that crazy. Like the first theory I had was that Violet would turn Venom, which obviously I'm like, don't come for me for smart theories, because I'm not gonna come up with smart theories. Like I really thought for some reason that Violet would become Venom, but I was like, no, I would hate that ending so much. But honestly, the getting married one wasn't really something that shocked me. I feel like that's a twist I've seen a lot in other fantasy romance novels too. I'm gonna spoil the Powerless trilogy a little bit, so if you haven't read Powerless, Reckless, that trilogy yet, I would totally swipe away or like click away. But in Reckless, the same thing kind of happens where she gets married off without her consent, and she doesn't really know what's going on in there either. So I don't know, I feel like this marriage trope thing has been seen like around in fantasy romance, so it doesn't shock me that much. The only thing is obviously Xaden has become more Venom now, so like obviously Violet is married to someone who's not actually Xaden, but he's becoming like a more Venom version of himself. So there's that. I mean, I can definitely see the tension of how this can progress into the next two books. I definitely feel like this book could have been shortened a little bit, just because I feel like the way we got from the beginning to the end is almost the same as the beginning to the end of Iron Flame, where beginning they had like a normal relationship in Iron Flame, toward the end we find out that he's turning Venom. But here it's kind of the same thing. In the beginning he's like very slightly Venom, not really, they still have the normal relationship, and then the very end he's turning like a lot more Venom, which I thought is what he would have turned in the end of Iron Flame. But like I said, I guess that's just not how the process goes for Venom becoming more Venom, and I don't really know like why it was prolonged for so long. Like I guess to keep them having a normal relationship for a little bit longer before everything like falls apart. And Rebecca Yarros did say that things would get bad for the characters in the next couple books, which I can totally see, because the fourth and fifth, like I will predict that the fourth one is gonna be a lot of like tension between Violet and Xaden, and obviously they can't really communicate as well anymore. And also I don't know what this means for Taryn and Sigil, because they're mated and they also need to be like close together. But obviously if Xaden is Venom, like they can't just be hanging around him all the time. So I'm also interested to see how that relationship plays out in the next book. But other than that, my thoughts kind of remain the same. Like the first half was pretty slow. I feel like the book was pretty slow for the most part, and like things were happening, but I didn't really feel like it was as fast as I was wanting things to happen. And this is a pretty big book, especially on Kindle, so I just think that it could have been shortened by maybe 100 pages or so. I feel like Rebecca Yarros is pretty good at writing like an ending battle scene, I guess, but I don't know, I was just expecting so much more from this ending than what I got, I guess, based on like people's reactions and what they were saying. I will continue on with the series because I've already read 3 books and I'm still invested in the story and the characters, but I don't know if it's something that I'm like, it's not one of my favorites. Fourth Wing is still my favorite of the series. I would say my ranking would be Fourth Wing, ONYX Storm, and then Iron Flame. So this book, I think I'm gonna end up giving like 3.5 stars. It had a lot of like positives in the sense that I still enjoyed my time reading it, and I really love the world and the dragons being involved, but I think it just could have been cut down a little bit and the ending just didn't stick for me as well as I wanted it to. Maybe I'm a hater, but I don't know. I feel like I don't know, I'm just so disappointed by the ending because everyone was hyping it up so much and it just wasn't at all what I was expecting, and it wasn't like shocking at all. Like I wanted that shock factor to be there, which it really wasn't. It was just a lot of confusion, which I guess that was like probably the point, because like she's super confused and I guess we're supposed to be also super confused with her. So that definitely came across if that was her goal, but I don't know, I was just looking for like an epic twist or reveal of some kind. But maybe that was just my fault. It probably was. It probably just was me being like a hater and wanting and finding faults with it. Overall, my experience, 3.5, probably 3.25. I feel like encapsulates my experience reading this pretty well. It was still an enjoyable time. I had a good time reading it. It did feel a little bit long at times because of like the slow pace a little bit at the beginning. But yeah, those are all my thoughts. Another thing I wasn't expecting was that there was a few other point of views like in the last few chapters. I thought it would just be like the same where it was Violet and then 1 chapter of Xaden, but she sprinkled in a couple chapters from Rhiannon and then Imogen. That, and then of course we had 1 chapter from Xaden, as is tradition. Yeah, I don't know, I'll be patiently waiting I guess for the 4th book. I mean, I'm not super like on the edge of my seat. Like that's what I wanted the ending of this to be. I wanted it to be like, it ended in a way where I was on the edge of my seat of what was gonna happen next, and I wanted the next book like right now. But honestly, the ending is just not really giving me that feeling, and I don't know how to feel. Like I might have to sit with my thoughts a little bit more. But yeah, that is it for this video. Let me know down below if you read ONYX Storm and what your thoughts are. As of course I would love to know, especially with the ending, because I really want to know what people thought of the ending. Like I've seen some people obviously be shocked, but I just want to know other opinions too. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you next time. Bye.